Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk. And there's a lot to get into, including The Rock, officially part of the Bloodline. We've got some signings for Smackdown, AEW, and a Velveteen Dream sighting. Yeah, all that and more today on WWT Live.
Hello, guys. This is La Mera Mera Thunder Rosa, and I'm here to tell you that you're watching Women Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another edition of WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. I am the Professor Gerard Bonner, GB, whatever you feel like calling me today. I'm not really the important part of this puzzle here because there's so much that we had to talk about. It was another full and free weekend in the space of pro wrestling, and I am not alone. No. The lady of the house is with us. And no, I don't mean the boss lady. I mean Wrestling with Honey, of course. How are you?
I'm feeling real sweet, real sweet. Ready to get into some action tonight. Miss you, TK.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to the boss lady who is doing boss lady kinds of things. No worries. We can hold down the fort and it will be a ton of fun. And we are not alone. Perhaps we can finally get some answers in terms of this guy's residency. Is he a part of Vice City? Is he living in Parkerville? Let's answer these questions with, at last I knew, the mayor of Vice City. He, of course, is Said. What's going on, brother? Oh, boy. He's waxing poetic and he is muted, which proves the challenge that you have when living in two cities or trying to have dual residency.
Yeah, dual residency is very complicated. Happy Monday, everybody. But this is why in 2024, I encourage everybody to get their frequent flyer miles up, Apply for those things, and then you can, too, be a dual resident. We're going to start new gimmicks in 2024. It was the EST at WWT, Mayor of Vice City, which is still going strong. But I think having a nice little vacation home in Parkerville would be very well. I think that's a nice thing to have.
I was going to ask, are you going to be bi-coastal, perhaps?
Oh, I haven't considered that. I haven't considered that.
There are people who do it. They spend some time on the East Coast, some time on the West Coast. Whatever works for you is, I'm sure.
It'll be a rotating thing depending on my mood on Tuesday nights.
I see. So you might and Tuesday night is a night of conflict for you, considering that both townships are well represented. So yeah, very interesting.
We're gonna stay tuned to that. We're gonna see how the scales tip right here.
That is very, very fair. How was the weekend for you, honey?
The weekend was pretty good, pretty chill, pretty relaxing. I got it was a lot of things to look at that popped up over the weekend. So it was good.
How about you, Said? How was the weekend?
Dry at first. It's raining a lot today, which is unfortunate. Not a fan of the rain. But the weekend was very chill. Very chill.
Very good. Very, very good. Very good. Well, shout out to Cousin Ron, who's in the chat. Cousin Ron is actually going to be a part of this show. He doesn't realize it yet, but he actually was connected to a part of this show that we will be talking about a little bit later, and he'll know exactly what I am talking about. But let's first start off with perhaps one of the endearing images from over the weekend, as for the first time we got to see The Rock put his ones up and officially declare himself as part of the Bloodline with this parting shot from Smackdown. Now, honey, I know you were doing a live watch along for Smackdown right here. And tell us kind of what you felt, what you thought as this moment was happening.
So as it was going on, it's like I kind of got stuck because it not only was it the moment that I was waiting for all evening, but I was just literally lost in the moment and trying to really listen to what they were saying or how the promos were being delivered. I was also looking out for a lot of things as far as if they were going to come out together, which they didn't. Even though they left together at the press conference, it's just very wishy-washy. I definitely feel like my emotions are being tugged in a lot of places because I still have questions. I still have lots of questions, and I'm very curious. And it's like I don't want to speculate too much, but I have to just follow their rabbit hole, and it's killing me. It's killing me. It's the drama, the bloodline of it all.
Oh, yes. The cinema of it all. Said, man, yes. What were your thoughts about this rather iconic moment as The Rock seemingly joins the bloodline?
You know, the cool thing about social media is that you can kind of catch everything in the moment, like everybody's opinion, stuff like that. Because I still haven't watched the actual full show, but I stopped what I was doing when this segment happened to watch it online. Now, I love social media detectives, and I hope I'm never on their bad side because they can pinpoint and find everything. So all the mannerisms that you can point to is going to leave us on cliffhangers for the next. I'm not going to say until WrestleMania. I'm going to say for the rest of the year. The way Dwayne would point at Roman and the bloodline when he said, ensure that you guys are all losers, when he said you guys are crybabies. These are things that you can break down and see, like, is he talking in, like, I'm not the third person, but like, is he talking in like code? And that's what people are breaking down. This was like the what are the gun club called? The Bang Bang.
Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
Yeah. So the gunshots in the air, which both the gun club members have pointed out on Twitter that The Rock was still in their style because he's not traditionally throwing up their ones. But I think you said it first, Professor, and I'm going to probably agree with you that Roman has traditionally always been a step ahead. And I feel like he is reading into what's happening. And I feel like that turn on Rock will come before Rock is able to overturn Roman from the inside out. Like, I just feel like there's always an extra plan there.
That's going to be interesting.
It's so much more complicated now than just the simple who's going to turn on who or who's the real tribal chief. This has gone and delved into a deeper story now. It's like, okay, who's going to get the one up? Like because as much as The Rock was speaking a lot, because he did overtake that promo after Roman said what he said and he came out, because Rock just steals the show everywhere he goes. But Roman didn't really look like he cared about The Rock or what he was saying per se. I'm just saying there was a lot of things to be looked at. You know, you have to look at Solo, you have to look at Jimmy, you have to look at The Rock, you have to look at Roman, and then the specific, and even Paul Heyman is another one. And then the specific way that, why would the camera specifically turn to that angle as The Rock is pointing at Roman? Because they know exactly what they're doing. But you go, Professor.
But no, like, the optics are right, because the bloodline was positioned on one side of the ring while Dwayne was firmly in the center of the ring. It was completely off. And what I've noticed, what I was hoping to see on this episode was like some interactions between Dwayne and Solo and Dwayne and Jimmy. That didn't happen. I feel like they're going to come. And I think the first domino is going to be like, oh, maybe The Rock giving those two an order outside of Roman's like request and seeing how Roman responds to that.
You know, as you mentioned that, I've got a bunch of ideas. I'm going to get to these moments in the chat in a second. But as you mentioned that, it reminded me, first of all, I'm realizing that there is a lot that's going on all at one time. For instance, we have a lot of people who are joining the sport of pro wrestling who may not have been around during The Rock's first run. They may have missed the Rocky Maivia phase, you know, the Die Rocky Die phase.
I probably don't even know it existed.
Right. That's why so many have been thrown off by this. It was kind of like when Hogan, you know, became Hollywood Hogan. So many people knew about the red and yellow that they didn't realize that he actually was a villain before, you know, Hulkamania started. And so seeing The Rock in this vein, on one hand, I thought to myself, The Rock kind of had to establish himself in this promo as a heel for sure, because people left Vegas going, is he a heel? Is he just protecting his family? Like, what's he doing? So I think he had to establish that, and he really went out of his way to do that. And you could tell he was really having to go to a certain place because he is so used to being able to connect with the crowd. And so now kind of getting these things out was wild. You mentioned something, though, said about potentially him giving an order. And that actually took me back to when The Rock was a part of the Nation of Domination, and how there was that rift between him and Farouk, with him ultimately kicking Farouk out of the group because he had to be the leader. You know, will we end up revisiting that? Of course, at that point, he was the young buck, and the established star and leader was, of course, Farouk. In this case, while the leader of the bloodline is Roman, The Rock is clearly the star. So it's going to get interesting. Let me go to some of these moments here in the chat. JD, good to see you. Brandon, welcome aboard. Boza says, it felt like they had to rush what The Rock was going to say because they can't tell time. It went till 9:59 instead of 9:57. Well, you have to always know that whenever The Rock has a live mic, pretty much time doesn't exist. So putting him at the end of the show might have been the only way that they were certain that he'd stay in a certain time frame. Other than that, we would have had a 30-minute promo at the start of the show. MDB talks about the High Chief. Rocky Maivia. That's interesting. Boza says, even though this was done so well, I still think this will be like WrestleMania 14. Cody has Rock being a double agent so he can beat Roman. All right. MDB says Cody is in the heel situation for me. So this is going to be fun. And also joining us today, it is Jacob, a.k.a. De La with no soul. How are you, sir?
Wow.
That wasn't meant to say that you were soulless. It was to infer that you were not getting confused with De La Soul. That's what I'm saying. If he took that as an insult, which I think he did, that was not the intent.
I figured that, but wow, just all right. I'm good. How are y'all today?
We are good. We are good. What are your thoughts?
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Michaels. Thank you.
What are your thoughts on this image and The Rock's first official appearance with the Bloodline?
Well, The Rock clearly doesn't know what the gesture is. Which tells me Rock hasn't been watching product for the past couple of years, which where does he have time to watch it? I mean, you've already talked about all the internet sleuths, this, that, how it could play out, like the Nation, mentioned High Chief, Rocky Maivia. That's a nice option. My thing is, and I can't believe I've reached this stage of wrestling fandom, but let's just let it play out.
Yes, that's
Let's
always
let all this play out, because everybody was like, oh, this is Hollywood Rock. And my boy texted me Saturday. He was like, you see Smackdown? I was like, no, but I saw the promo. He was like, was that Hollywood Rock to you? I was like, no. I was like, that's corporate rock, if not a mesh of corporate / Hollywood Rock. Like, literally, look at the Versace shirt. I'm 90% sure that's the same one he had from back in the 90s. He just ripped the sleeves off because he can't fit in it anymore. So, I mean, sure. Will we get Hollywood Rock? Probably. It's just going to take a slow morph. Or maybe we'll get some mix of Hollywood and corporate rock, and this should be interesting. Let's see what Rocky as a heel can do. Let's give him some time. He's a little rusty, but Rock at like 70% is better than most of the roster, for better or worse, when it comes to promos.
Well said.
Rusty's interesting because I did feel like a lot of it was forced. He did stumble over quite a few statements. It felt very forced. And then there's a picture of him smiling with one of the fans leaving leaving the ring. So I mean, it's totally foreign territory for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he hasn't 49ers bit was like, clearly Prime Rock would have not even mentioned that. Like, would have went right to the Bulls Jazz thing.
Yeah,
would have hit it running. But hey, give him some time.
He said Utah Dream.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he?
No. He said when the Bulls crushed Utah's dreams.
Oh yeah.
But then he called him the Utah Dream in the next.
The Utah. Oh wow! And then he stumbled on Real World. and real world works. Like I guess because of
Mhm.
the WOR in the words,
Yeah.
but yeah. But it, I mean, who cares?
You know, there's two thoughts. One is that I think people forget how difficult it is to do a promo live. And for The Rock, who once used to do it live all the time, when you're in the movies where you have opportunities for multiple takes and you can say, "What's my line?" then
Right.
there is, obviously an opportunity for you to be able to just kind of stumble over some things. The other thing that I think is interesting is that already this segment on YouTube alone has over 3 million views, which is crazy if you think about that. 3 million views already for this segment alone, which again is saying just how big of a segment this was. So kudos to all things Bloodline. And I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting things as time continues to progress. Now, we also learned quite a bit at SmackDown, including the filling out of the Elimination Chamber match for the men. For those who cannot see this graphic, coming into this week, we knew that Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, and Bobby Lashley, along with LA Knight, had qualified. The last two qualifiers saw Kevin Owens entering the chamber by defeating Dominic Mysterio, and then the U.S. champion Logan Paul defeating The Miz. And now we have all 6 slots in the Elimination Chamber match on the men's side. Let's talk a little bit about this. What are your thoughts, guys, on these 6 guys going into the chamber? Dela, let's start with you.
Well, this is predictable.
Okay.
AB, let's just look at this. All right, we got 6 people, right? Let's do some simple math here and look where everybody is. KO and Logan Paul take each other out the equation. I feel like they're heading to a Mania match for the U.S. title. LA Knight probably gets wrapped up in that. That's probably where LA Knight gets his crowning moment at Mania. So there's you a triple threat out of that. Bobby Lashley has Karrion Kross out on his heels. So I don't see how Lashley can win this. If anything, I see Kross finding a way in the chamber to screw Lashley, which leaves me Drew, Randy. I kind of want Randy, but like only if you're going to give me Slender Man psychopath Randy. Like I'm happy with babyface Randy. Hey, I've been gone for 18 months. I'm surprised I'm back here too. I'm having fun, but no, I need the psycho Randy. Otherwise, give me Buck Nasty, aka Drew McIntyre, to win it.
Okay, honey, what are your thoughts?
I would have to somewhat agree with those choices. I had said on the watch along on Friday that I believe Logan Paul is going to be the prop in this match that gets tossed like a salad, like for sure. And I'm going to love every second of it. If it wasn't Dominic Mysterio to take all the heat in that match, it's definitely going to be Logan Paul. So I guess that's a good replacement for it. So I'd rather watch Logan Paul take some heat. Yeah. And Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley, I agree. KO and Logan Paul, maybe LA Knight in there, triple threat. So I would have to somewhat agree with that. But I want Randy more than I want Drew, but I have a feeling it's just going to be Drew. Like Drew's been on a roll with his new mean gimmick. Like he's kind of like doesn't give AF Drew, and I kind of like that. But it wouldn't be bad. It would not be a bad idea. I would be open-minded to seeing a Randy Orton run at the heavyweight championship. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Said.
It's a very interesting field. I remember, I think last week I mentioned I probably booked Bronson Reed in here as well as Dom being in this match. So to see the field now, I feel like there's something bigger at play because the card itself does look kind of light. So I feel like, I don't know who, but I feel like one of these people will not be in this match. Don't know how we get there, and I don't know which one, because I'm looking at guys like Bobby and Orton and Knight, and the only one that really makes sense to jump to Raw is LA Knight. And that's if you want him to rival Seth for the title, or you want him to eventually take the IC off Gunther and not lose any momentum on that part of the card. But like, I can't see them doing a Randy and Seth. I don't know what that would do for the program and the storyline right now. Drew is a likely choice, but I feel like it's just too obvious with his merch sales and everything else. I think it's just too obvious to do Drew, and also like it would be a complete failure if you have Drew finally get this one-on-one match in front of an audience at Mania and then he still loses.
True.
Like,
it's gonna happen.
It'd be a complete failure to do that to Drew. So for that standpoint, I mean, it really depends on what they're doing with this whole tag team match that we're teasing for a possible night one or wherever. But I have to feel like Priest is cashing in at Mania now, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I said Perth.
No,
I said Perth, but the title's not being defended at Perth. But now it has to be
Perth.
But now you know what, and well, it's interesting you say that, Zed, because now I'm looking at the graphic, and obviously we know that it's purple and black because of Rhea, but who's to say it ain't all purple and black for the men's as well for Judgment because of Judgment Day and Priest like sneaking on like it's a obvious tell from them, you know what I mean? Like just like a little sneaky tell. You don't know because they play like that. They play in your face sometimes like that, and you never know.
Yeah. I mean, and Jacob's right. The Waller effect is on Saturday as well. So Cody and Seth are on the Waller effect. Will they cash in the Waller effect? I don't know. I feel like you have to do something. And if they did pull that trigger, that means Seth is still really hurt.
Yeah. I think this gets interesting for sure. We've got a lot of talk here in the chat. Let's see. Boza says, I agreed with Honey on Friday. I think Logan will take all the finishers. This match will set up Logan's title defense at Mania. MDB is surprised that, Honey, you are hating on Logan Paul, which I think is interesting. Boza says, I want Randy too, but Drew feels like a layup. He felt like a plan B the moment CM Punk got hurt.
Yeah.
I also think that Drew has just really leaned into this whole thing. And I mean, whether he was a plan B or not, he right now is the guy who seems to be making the most sense for that match. JD feels like it will be Drew as well. MDB says Drew is calling himself DM Hunk. He is, which I think is hilarious. Cousin Ron says, I think it's a win, but then he gets cashed in on by Damian Priest. So I think for Mania, we're saying, and really, if you think about it, it could make sense for either Drew or Seth to get cashed in on at Mania by Damian Priest, given Damian Priest's feelings about both of them. So
yes,
I think that's a real possibility. Boza says Judgment Day has to deal with the New Catch Republic. The only way Damian cashes in is if the New Catch Republic takes the title.
Who came up with that name?
I don't either. I don't know.
Don't know. Not sure.
On paper, this card feels like a Raw episode. Well, if it feels like a Raw episode, I hope it feels like tonight's, because tonight's episode of Raw is
it's pretty stacked. Yeah,
it is stacked. So an episode of Raw isn't that big of an insult, actually.
Yeah, that's a compliment.
And so one of the things that we'll find out tonight on Raw is who will fill this sixth spot for the Women's Elimination Chamber match. So as it stands now, the 5 women in there are Naomi, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and Tiffany Stratton. And there's honestly been a little bit of controversy over the weekend in terms of how the 6th slot will be filled. All week we had heard a battle royal. Then we saw that it could be a fatal 5-way. Now we're understanding that I guess these 5 women are involved in the battle royal that's for the qualifying match, or is it that the battle royal, the winner of that, ends up entering the qualifying match? It's still a little murky to me. But I do think that tonight's Raw will be interesting in terms of seeing how they decide who the 6th woman is for Elimination Chamber. So let's just go to it. Honey, who do you think will be the 6th person in the Elimination Chamber match for the women?
Well, I know what I'm gonna say. I'm going with La Muñeca Zelina Vega. Because
Okay.
that's what I want. That's just
Okay.
what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's personally, she's the homie. Like I love her, and I root for her all the time. You know, she's Puerto Rican from New York, and I got to go with my own.
I love it. I love it. Said, who makes the chamber on the women's side?
So yeah, this is somewhat of a second chance qualifier for the Elimination Chamber, and we now know that Chelsea Green is also in this match, which you need. Like, it's funny how we mentioned a minute ago, you need somebody to take the lumps. I feel like that's perfect for Chelsea to be the person to take the lumps, to do all the hiding in the chamber and stuff like that. So my heart is telling me Chelsea somehow wins this and goes into the chamber. I wish that they would give it to somebody like Indy Hartwell, who's an actual native of the land, Australian, or somebody like Alba Fire, just as a showcase of what she can do on main roster. But I think they did that that social media post because Chelsea somehow gets into the chamber and is our comic relief for the women's elimination chamber match.
That could be very interesting. Jacob, who's going to the chamber?
So out of the 6 that we likely know, yeah, Chelsea Green would be great for comedic relief, but I don't need Chelsea Green in this match when I have Liv Morgan. Like, I can only take so much comedic relief, whether it's intentional or not. So there's that. And then let's see. Shayna Baszler would be a good option, but the problem with putting Shayna back in the chamber is the last time she was in the chamber, if I'm not mistaken, she nerfed everybody, and they did nothing with it. Let's not go there again. Mia Yim would be dope for a showcase. Same with Kaylee Ray. Zelina Vega, no. Honestly, Zoe Stark should be the one to go in. Because if you think about it, she spent half a year running around with Trish. She planted Trish in the middle of the ring at Payback. And since then, like, yeah, she's had 2 cracks at the women's world title, but I feel like they haven't capitalized on that moment. And Trish decided to go back to being a mom. No fault of Trish's own. So you couldn't get the payoff in the form of a match with that to fully cement Zoe. So I think this is the showcase for Zoe, where it's like, all right, we got something here. She's probably next in line, even though she loses the chamber match, because I think we all know who's winning.
Said, I saw. I was gonna just lay it up to you and let you have at it, sir.
I needed to define Liv Morgan as comedic relief because I think everybody collectively on screen in the chat was like, "What do you mean by that?"
What do you mean? What do I mean by that? Have you watched the Liv Morgan match?
What?
Wow.
Have you seen Liv Morgan on your TV?
Is she a joke to you?
Is she good to you?
Wow.
Now this is a new one. Ooh.
Yo.
Wow.
This sounds like an outdated take. This sounds like a very outdated take.
I felt
wow.
ooh.
Well, so Jacob, when's the last time you watched Liv Morgan?
I saw Liv Morgan when she won her qualifier over, was that Valhalla that she beat in the qualifier?
So last week.
Yes.
And that's what you feel after watching her?
Yes, she's not good. I don't get the appeal of Liv Morgan. I think I've said this a million times on this show. I would love for somebody to explain it to me. We could take this moment and educate me. Maybe it might change my opinion, but she's generic blonde number 7 that got lost in Hot Topic and doesn't have a character.
Oh, these is fighting words. This is rough. I really don't know how to react to this.
Mr. Welton's ladies in NXT, all 3 of them have more character and are more entertaining than Liv Morgan.
That's crazy.
All 3?
I would disagree with that.
Who's the third?
We got Jada, Lola. Okay, and 2. I'm sorry, I was counting somebody's assets as a third. My bad.
Oh,
I was curious to know who the third was going to be too, but it's neither here or there.
You'll have one in a couple weeks, probably.
Probably, bounce around a little bit. But Liv is a very improved wrestler, like from her NXT days to now.
Absolutely.
She's done stellar in ring. She's a long way from that Lashley Lana stuff too, like far removed as far as the character department.
Okay, but if the bar is still bad, if the bar was in hell and I got the bar to purgatory, does it still mean I'm doing great?
Liv
No,
has the
I
best
can't.
character arc right now as a case to fight Rhea.
I can't.
She
Yeah,
has
and
the
she was
best
her
case
former
to fight
tag.
Rhea
She's
right
a
now
former
because of
tag
being
team
taken out.
champion. And honestly, I can't knock her because I was front row when I saw her at Extreme Rules with her and Ronda in Philly, and I can honestly say she's definitely improved over the years. Like, I'm not gonna say she's a joke wrestler because she's definitely not, but in my opinion. But everybody's
Like you
entitled to
treat
their own, man.
Liv like she
But I was
like
about to, like, I would
super
have thought
developmental.
I would have thought that would have been said like maybe about, I don't know, like, yeah.
Okay, that's just abysmal. Like, that's not even worth the commentary.
No, but that's I would consider her comic relief as opposed to Liv.
This is unintentional comic relief. Like, we know what Maxine Dupree is. Like,
I don't know, man.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's oofa. Ooh.
Wow.
I don't know. Liv's one of the people that you can consider a viable champion at any time.
Wow.
And she's been champion before.
And she's earned that.
She's definitely her mic game has definitely stepped up. Like when she's in front, when the camera's on and she turns on, like, and now she has the newly self-proclaimed Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. Like Liv Morgan Revenge Tour, like I can't wait to see this version of Liv, because she's going at Rhea and it's her former tag partner. I don't know. That's crazy. Well, let's go La Muñeca.
Just saying.
It got real spicy. Like, you hear a pin drop.
I gotta be Hail of the Year for this one, then
okay, let's see what the people are saying, because JD says that he would assume that Zoe Stark would end up in the chamber. MDB is talking about the revenge tour of Liv Morgan. JD actually says he likes the heel turn by Jacob. Wow. So the Shadow Ranger says Liv is okay at best and always looks like she's about to cry.
It's makeup.
MDB says you don't get the appeal of Liv Morgan. Special Little Nobodies agrees with Jacob. This is very interesting.
She just got back, y'all.
Boza says, I hope Liv wins the chamber. It feels like people think Mommy should lose to the man. Liv is a former world's champion. MDB asks, who's better, Alexa Bliss or Liv Morgan? That's probably hard to answer since we haven't seen Alexa in a while. Liv doesn't have, okay, so Shadow Ranger says Liv doesn't have the best case to fight Rhea. What case does Liv have that the other women don't? How about the idea that Rhea actually put her out of action? That seems to be case enough.
That's the obvious. What is
let's see. JD says, I get it. I think Liv is a good worker, but she doesn't do anything for Jacob. He's acting like Liv Morgan is Max Dupree or Kelly. Special Little Nobody says Liv is so whack to me. This is incredible. JD says Dupree is probably the worst actor in the women's locker room. I really don't know what she's doing there. Shadow Ranger agrees with Jacob. Liv is nothing special. This is wow. Okay. Boza says Liv versus Nia would be great at Mania. I think people just want Mommy versus the man because the man is the only one allowed, it feels, to beat Mommy.
Let me tell you something about that. If they do that, because that feels so telegraphed, since we're not going to do like Bianca versus Rhea this year, I promise you, Rhea sending Becky to the upper room. I promise you that will be retired.
Now, I feel like we had a Becky conversation a few months ago when the word came out about her and this memoir, which is being released on WrestleMania week. And then there was also talk about the potential of Rhea of Becky, thank you, potentially retiring. Could we see, if Becky makes it out of the chamber into Mania against Rhea, could this be the swan song of Becky Lynch?
No way.
Done.
Maybe in a WWE ring, but I don't think totally.
No way.
That's
I don't know
gone
about
for
that.
at least that pseudo retirement. Maybe you do a spot in the next couple of years, something like that, but that's done.
You think?
Nah,
You
I
think
think
Becky's
she might.
gonna- Wow.
She might pack her bags and move down south.
Well, she's already south.
Oh no, I mean
Right.
as in AEW Jacksonville.
I don't see Becky going to AEW. That
Nah,
that
too
If
makes
popular.
Seth goes, she might go.
Seth's not going. There's
That-
no way.
They said
That's
is never,
company guy.
That's too
ever
company.
leaving.
Company guy. He's not going
Mm.
anywhere.
Mm,
But let's do
That's more
this.
company man than
way.
Booker T. That's like over the top company man.
ain't nobody a more company man than Booker T.
Well, if you guys,
Becky and Seth ain't going nowhere. Nowhere.
yeah,
They're not going nowhere.
if you guys would like to be company guys, you can get some merch.
Hey, yo, you. Yeah, you that's watching this. You sitting on the couch staring at the screen not knowing what you want to do like this is an online college. Are you tired of wearing shirts that make you look like an extra stuck in catering? Do you want to step your wrestling swag game up to the next level? Then Women's Wrestling Talk has got you covered. Like literally. Are you for life in pink or black and white? Or maybe you're the EST and people need to respect you accordingly. Want to put some pride in your stride and show off the muscle in your hustle? Then make sure you check out the WWT store. Not now, but right now. Alright? What you waiting for? Head to www.talkpodstore.com and don't make me fight you. Shit.
And
Great
of course, you
transition
can,
there.
well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And of course, you can get your merch by scanning that QR code up in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. Get all of that great merch and more. You can go ahead and take care of that while we're talking, which I think will be absolutely fantastic. All right. Well, I had no idea that segment would be so controversial. One other piece of news coming out of SmackDown, which I do think is certainly worth conversation, is the signing of Braun Breaker. Now, I feel like Wednesday we talked about, what was going to happen with Braun, considering Braun had just won the tag titles in NXT. And I think we raised the question that asked, how does this impede on his potential signing on Raw or SmackDown? Now that he is signed to SmackDown, and it's being said that he will officially debut as a SmackDown superstar this Friday, what do you think this does for Braun Breaker and the NXT Tag Team Championships?
I definitely think people should have their eyes open for sure. I see a lot of growth for Braun Breaker especially going to Fox. I think that is the right move. I kind of was hoping he'd go to Raw, but I didn't mind either way because he is a star in the making regardless. And I'm just wondering. I'm just really interested in seeing how it plays out between him doing double duty as we talked about on Wednesday with the NXT Championship, Tag Team Championships with Baron Corbin, the Wolf Dogs, self-proclaimed, and then him being on the roster full time on Fridays. So it's going to be interesting to see for me personally because I just the kid's got stuff, and I'm sure he's got more stuff to show us.
Said, what do you think? What happens here with Braun Breaker? Does he do double duty? Does he give up the tag titles? What do we see?
I think he does double duty for a while just to like ingratiate himself with the fans that maybe don't watch NXT. However, I did feel like SmackDown was the wrong move. I thought he was made for Raw. Essentially being the last person to actually pin Gunther. I thought you can tee that right up. So they're going a different direction, and I don't know how he really fits on the landscape right now with all the Bloodline stuff going on. And then with Logan Paul being a U.S. champion, I don't know if they would tee that up right away either. I think they'll have the tag team titles at least through the rest of the month. But I honestly don't know who they would drop to NXT either. I think the D'Angelo family stuff was getting kind of stale. You can't really do Chase U thing anymore again. So I don't know who. I can't believe I'm saying this. You could do the OTM thing, but no. So like I don't know who they would really drop the belts to. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't watch the show the past couple of weeks because I was boycotting.
Oh,
Did Gallows and Anderson appear on NXT?
they did not.
No, they did not. They
So
appeared
I
on
don't know.
Friday.
I don't know if they're going to appear this Tuesday. I'm not sure.
Okay, I read something about that, which that could be interesting as kind of some
The
transitional
brothers moving on
champions.
down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we need to see a little bit more of that to help NXT, which is why the tag team thing is getting stale. So we need to see like a tag team that's somewhat on the main roster, someone moving down, so they could, how about the younger cats? Because now, the tag team championships are not relevant again, but there's a veteran holding one of them. So
Yeah.
Dayla, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Sam brought up a good point, which was my point. What we doing with these tag belts? Like, did anybody tell Sean that this was coming? Did Trips forget to send a text to Sean like, "Hey, dog, I don't know what you got going on, but here's what I'm about to do, so you might want to adjust accordingly." Because you can pull double duty. I mean, Dragon Lee did it. Dom has done it. Dolph Ziggler did it. We've seen it plenty of times. It's not that difficult, especially because they're not touring like they used to on the main roster. So sure, you hit a Tuesday. Yeah, you could hit a Tuesday down at the PC, Capital Wrestling Center, fly out Wednesday, Thursday, do SmackDown on Friday, back to Orlando. All fine and dandy. But my question is, who are they dropping these belts to? Like, that's really my thing is, who are you dropping these belts to? Because can't do Chase U, like said. The family has been stale and dead on arrival for a long time. OTM just ain't it.
Yeah.
Your best bet is Gallus. Reheat Gallus.
Well, you got Gallus. You also have Blade and Enofe.
Yeah, good match.
Who I think they are due for sure. I'm not sure what else they need to do, but they are due. They're a really good team. It is interesting though. Yeah, go ahead.
I might have heard that Enofe or one of those guys got injured during an NXT taping.
Okay.
I might have heard something about that.
It was Enofe. I think he tried to dispel it. He said he'd be all right, but we don't know the severity yet. And actuality, is it wrong that as soon as they announced this on Friday, my first thought was Monday Night Mellow?
Ooh.
That was legit my first thought, because I think you want to keep those guys away for a while before you can actually run them on the main roster.
Yeah. I'll tell you what else is interesting too, which I'm just not sure precedent wise what they're going to do with that. It's interesting because Tiffany Stratton signed her contract with SmackDown literally 2 weeks ago, and she's been exclusive to SmackDown. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Maybe it's needs based relative to the tag titles. I don't know, but I think it will be very interesting to see. So moving out of we do have to talk about this really quickly. So I think it was Friday that we talked about how Riyadh, Saudi Arabia had this new thing open called the WWE Experience. And we kind of wondered, would anything like that happen stateside? Well, cue up WWE World, which is going to happen during WrestleMania week in Philly. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be one of these immersive experiences. Now, usually at Mania, they have these kinds of fan experiences, but this is going to be different. They're going to actually have some roundtable discussions this year with WWE superstars as part of WWE World. They're going to have a WWE 2K24 gaming tournament, which is going to be interesting. They're going to record some live podcasts, and we'll talk about 2K24 before we go. There'll be some live memorabilia, some autograph sales. It's going to be the largest WWE Superstore in history. There'll be autograph sessions, meet and greets. This is going to be something very, very special. Now, tickets go on sale for it this Thursday. It's going to be at the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philly. And the slight difference between the WWE World and the WWE Experience, we told you that the WWE Experience, the tickets for that were only $20 US. WWE World tickets will range between $30 and $300. That is not a typo. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. But again, every year the fan experience or the fan access should be special. This WWE world certainly looks like it's going to be really, really cool. So kudos to them. Now let's get to this, because the other big piece of news that happened over the weekend was a returning Patrick Clark, formerly known as the Velveteen Dream, made a shocking appearance at a local show in Albany, New York. Now, what's so interesting about this is I actually first found out about this from Cousin Ron, because Cousin Ron was there. He went live on Facebook with this, and I just was like, dude, where are you? This is insane. And so he came out. It was a shock to all the fans and the like. He started, of course, with a promo at the start of the show and ended up, being booked for an opportunity to wrestle. And let's just say that the response to this was highly controversial on Twitter, considering also that apparently Dynasty had booked Rita Chatterton to ring the bell. And so people looked at the kind of the optics of, what the Velveteen Dream had been accused of, and the experience that Rita Chatterton had. And so I guess the question is your thoughts on this. This was a surprise booking. Apparently, he was not advertised. And some had questions in terms of, hey, should people be able to give refunds if they didn't want to see him, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on the return of Patrick Clark to a wrestling ring?
You fellas can go first.
Screw it. I'll go. All right. So my overarching theme and thought is, give me the option to decide if I want to see that man. Don't pull him up as a surprise, start the show, and then double back with, oh, he's also in the main event. We all know the things that he has been accused of, that he's allegedly done or hasn't done. We've heard the Chris Van Velt interview, this and the third. No need to rehash that. The point is, there's certain things that leave a stench on you, whether you did it or not. And a lot of those things can rub a lot of people the wrong way. It's as if no, there's no comparison. I'm not even going to make that comparison. So it's just, my biggest thing was, I saw this, I was like, oh, that was definitely a choice. And then they doubled down on it on Twitter by basically being like, we believe in giving people second chances. This is the nature of the business, so on and so forth. All right, cool. You've made a choice. You've dug your heels into it. And then you also have Rita there, and it's like, if you know her history, it looks very tone deaf at best. Just that's not the person you want to surprise somebody with. That's like almost surprising me with Scott Steiner after his tirade. Just don't. Just for the sake of the greater good, don't, or at least advertise it. That's my whole thing. Give me the optional if I want to spend the money to see Patrick Clark, because they even brought him out to the Velveteen Dream music. I watched the clip.
Oh, wow. Did they?
Yeah.
And crickets didn't even chirp. Like, you couldn't even hear crickets chirping. They didn't even want to chirp. I think the man even cleaned his ears out at one point. It was like, come on. And it was just like a couple people chanting, but maybe Cousin Ron can attest to this a little bit more, but it seemed like a lot of folks were put off by the sight of him, especially being unannounced, which is, again, my biggest thing. Give me the option as somebody who's spending the money.
I'm going to come to you said in a second, but Cousin Ron was there. He said, I got to speak with him for a minute. He was very contrite and down to earth. He also says that Rita is well respected in the area, and I'm sure she was given the heads up.
I would hope so.
So, I think it's always different when you get an eyewitness who was there, to be able to kind of talk about what things felt like. I think obviously none of us being there, you can look at a certain thing from an optic perspective. But said, I want to ask you this. Because and cousin says some were put off, but he also got a lot of cheers. Seth, let me ask you this, because I think, and I know the last time we brought up the Velveteen Dream on this show, it got very interesting, certainly in the chat. I want to ask you this: if the man has not been convicted, does he deserve the opportunity to be able to work again? Or is this one of those situations where accusations are too strong? No, he shouldn't get to work.
I feel like if the accusations didn't turn into a conviction, he wasn't arrested or anything like that, which to my knowledge, he has not been. Just looking at the Chris Van Vliet interview, I feel like he should have the opportunity to rehabilitate his name. At the very least, he should be able to rehabilitate his name. I mean, as a fan of the Velveteen Dream character, it brought a little, like a smile to my face to see that he is getting a second chance. Somebody would, that people still remember his impact on industry as just a performer. But again, I think with the court of public opinion and then the way society is now with social media, nobody's going to ever allow you to forget what was done, or even if you didn't do it. But when you start canceling, blackballing people from earning a living, I think that's where it gets kind of conflicted. I think he should still be able to earn a living, rehabilitate his name. People, like, second chances are what this country is built off of. So if you don't allow somebody to graduate to being better than what you want, then what do you want them to do? You want them just to sit idle? Do you want them to expire? Like, I don't get what people's end game is with just dogpiling. I thought it was more interesting that he was able to use not only the name, but also his theme music from his time in NXT. Now, I don't know if WWE hit them with that cease and desist or something like that, but I thought that was very telling that he was able to portray part of that character. Because I think even in the Chris interview, he said that was done. Mm-hmm. He's not going back to the Dream persona at all.
Mm-hmm. Honey, your thoughts on this?
It's hard because I really, 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 really adored him as Velveteen Dream. As I'm talking about Velveteen Dream, the character, I was absolutely in love with it, all of it, and I was like, "This guy's it. He's going to be the next big, he's going to be the next star to shoot and skyrocket out of the NXT brand." When everything came out, I was just, it was like a gut punch, because it's just like, ugh, like, really, but if the guy hasn't been convicted or proven guilty or anything like that, he absolutely does deserve to reclaim his reputation and his name. And I agree with said on that, but then I also agree with Jacob with give people the option, as people spending customers and paying customers, to actually know who's going to be on the card. I mean, granted, a surprise, if you want to do a surprise, do it with somebody different. That probably would have been the better idea, because regardless, if people are going to go see your shows and you sell out all the time anyway, your seats are going to fill regardless. But I mean, maybe they should have went about it a little differently, maybe, but who am I to say? But I'm just saying, as a fan of Velveteen Dream, I'm glad that he's being brave enough to go back out there anyway, because it does take guts at the end of the day, especially after everything that he's endured and everything he's been accused of and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's like I'm on the fence with both of those opinions. So I agree with both sides of the coin when it comes to Patrick Clark. I still haven't seen that interview with Chris Van yet, but I heard it was very good.
Yeah, it is a very interesting interview for sure. And I think one of the things I just still sit back and there's a few things to consider with all of this. Obviously, the surprise of it all, I'm sure, is what helped this company who I don't know how many people have heard of Destiny before, but they got national attention from this, as you can imagine. So there's that. The other thing that I think is the catch-22 in all of this is I don't believe, and I say this very carefully, one of the real challenges I think just in our modern society, period, is there is always a path for accusation and conviction, but there's never a path for redemption. And where I'm concerned about that is I don't think that the scales are even. Let me explain what I mean. We now can look at a number of wrestlers in the wrestling industry who have done less than favorable things, and a number of them get the opportunity to eat again. Now, some would say, okay, can you compare a Sammy Guevara, a Hulk Hogan, and a Velveteen Dream? Well, they all had very interesting, issues. Some of them were actually tried in a court of law. Others were periods of accusation. Some have taken the time to try to, rehabilitate themselves. And I do think that in each of those cases, people have responded differently based on what is of importance to them. And I think everybody has the okay to do that. I just want everybody to operate with even scales. And I do think, again, there is a difference between somebody who has been tried in a court of law and somebody who has not. And at the risk of sounding like whatever, Hulk Hogan, his issues came out in a court of law. As opposed to someone merely being accused and never making it in to a court of law. So, I think there's that needs to be considered. And if we're going to make a path for certain wrestlers to redeem themselves, then there should be a path for everybody. Whether or not people choose that path is another story. But that's that. Moving on to much happier news. And I did this one because it is happy news. But if you guys watch the show Friday, you're going to know exactly why this is news. Because one of the other great pieces of news that dropped this past Friday is a certain Queen Aminata, who has been showing up quite a bit on AEW and Ring of Honor television. It was officially announced that Queen Aminata is all elite. And I'm really, really excited for her. She has had quite the career, dealt with injury. I'm coming to you, MDB. Don't worry. She's had quite the career so far. She had a scenario where she had injury, which I think had she not been injured last year, we probably would have been talking about this last year because she's been just that amazing. And she did. Let me go ahead and address you, MDB. Yes, she finally won a match on TV. But again, you haven't been watching all of TV because she's been undefeated on Ring of Honor, including winning her first round match in the women's television title tournament. So congratulations to Queen Aminata. Big win over Anna Jay. And in addition, gets signed to AEW. I think she has an extremely bright future in the women's division, in both Ring of Honor and in AEW. So it's going to be fun to see what she is going to be able to accomplish. But congratulations to Queen Aminata, a very special talent who I think we're going to be seeing an awful lot of. So a couple of other things before we get out of here. This is interesting. Of course, we are seeing kind of the roundup tour where Will Ospreay is kind of saying farewell, to New Japan, which last weekend that happened in that incredible cage match over in New Japan. And then last night had an absolutely insane, I mean, literally the internet is talking about this match like crazy between Michael Oku and Will Ospreay. It happened there in England for the British Heavyweight Championship. Also on that card was a surprise as Orange Cassidy defended the AEW International Championship there. Also present was Tony Khan, and Will Ospreay, thanked Tony Khan repeatedly for how Tony Khan is changing Ospreay's life. And all I will tell you is some of the clips that are floating around, you guys need to see as much of this match as you possibly can. I do want to ask this question to you guys. Well, no. The next slide is where I'm going to ask this question to you, because with Will Ospreay leaving, also leaving, of course, Kazuchika Okada from New Japan. Also leaving is Tama Tonga from New Japan. And so the current president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hiroshi Tanahashi, in a recent interview, made a very interesting statement. And his statement is this: this is a star-driven business, and we need to make new stars. He says that goes beyond success in the ring as well. Mainstream awareness and name value is the key to success. I want more of our wrestlers becoming household names. So with the household names in New Japan of Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, and Tama Tonga leaving, how long do you think it is before we get some new household names in New Japan? Now, we went through this about 5 years ago when the Young Bucks, Cody, Kenny Omega all exited New Japan to form AEW, and they kind of went in a bit of a rebuilding phase there. Do you think that New Japan has enough stars right now to rebuild and give us some household names?
Oh, you guys.
Anyone who wants to jump on that one?
Sorry.
Mr. Watson, go ahead.
I'm gonna say that's tough. I mean, they lost a lot of star power at the top of their card, obviously, and I think it'll probably take a couple of years to. When you talk about building household names from the ground up, it'll take at least a few years. Like we don't know what's going to happen with the strong women's championship and all the rumors of possibly Julia leaving. There's a lot. I don't want to say there's a cloud over New Japan, but they will have some crossover. I think Nick Nemeth has worked some matches over there. I believe Mustafa Ali will be working some programs there as well at some point. So they'll have some people cross over to boost their notoriety and brand. But you're talking about like people that are homegrown New Japan, where I think you're looking at 2 to 3 years before we have those household names again.
Yeah, building stars take some time. I mean, I'm not too entirely familiar with everything New Japan, but I mean, from what's come out of them, they haven't had a problem with making stars, you know. So I think we could definitely see possibility for room for new stars, but it's just going to take a little bit more time than I guess what it would usually would. I guess it just depends, like you said, it just depends on who else they bring in to draw, like when they do crossovers. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the word crossover, because that's how New Japan made this last 2, 3, 4 runs of significant stars. Knock, Styles, Okada, Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman, all had that Ring of Honor run in them, had that. So they became familiar to the casual on American TV, because if you rolled over at like 1 o'clock in the morning, your local Sinclair was probably airing Ring of Honor in some shape, form, or fashion. Do they have the stars now? Are the people that could be stars? Sure. The problem is getting them to that level, because you have a Zack Sabre Jr., you have a David Finlay, who, if you want to talk about making a star, that 5-on-5 cage match between Bullet Club War Dogs and United Empire, all of the War Dogs came out looking like money and future stars. And a couple of them are former NXT talents at that.
Right.
So you have the pieces. It's how do you get them there? I don't know if they have the infrastructure to do it. And when he said, I want more stars, I want my people to be household names, you got to remember, New Japan plays to 2 markets. They play to Japan and Asia, and then they play to us here in the States. Is he talking, I want them to be household in the States, or do I want them to be household here in Japan? Because there's been talks that they were kind of struggling, like the pandemic really hit them hard, and they're finally coming out of it. But now you just lost Ospreay. You're losing Okada. Tonga's gone. It's getting dicey again. So I think they have it, but I don't know if they have the infrastructure to build it, because this partnership with AEW, yeah, it gets you a Moxley and a Bryan Danielson every couple months, but what does it really, really do for you? Like, did it really help Jeff Cobb when he went over there for his little expedition? Has it helped Shooter? So maybe. I just don't know if they have the infrastructure to do it, which is the bigger problem. And where do you want stars? You want them stateside or you want them home?
I also think what's interesting, which by the way, this Friday is going to be, this whole weekend is going to be a massive wrestling weekend. You've got TNA's No Surrender, which will be their first pay-per-view under this new leadership. Also on the 23rd, an interesting match is happening as Tanahashi will be taking on Matt Riddle, which I think that's going to be interesting. And so perhaps the infusion of a Matt Riddle, a Nick Nemeth, a Mustafa Ali will provide kind of the American flair that will keep that international audience excited, which I think would be interesting. They're going to need that because much like what you guys said, the stars or the future stars that they have right now, you know, aren't really able to carry the top of the card. You know, for those who follow New Japan, Sonata becoming the world champion was great as when he won the match, but he didn't have the kind of title reign where people were like, that's our guy. You know, nobody looked at him as he's still the guy at the top of the card. We were still talking about Okada. We were talking about Naito. We were talking about all of these other people besides Sonata. And it was, oh yeah, Sonata. Yeah, he's the world champion. So, you know, it's an interesting space. Naito's the world champion right now, but that's the other question is how much longer do you have Naito and Tanahashi available to be in the ring? Now, what I will say is in 2 to 3 years, we got a different conversation happening because I do think that Shota Umino is going to get super hot. You know, I think several others are going to be really, really hot in this particular space that we'll be talking about. And we don't know what other free agents may find their way over to New Japan as well. All right, last story, which I think will be really fun to end with. Of course, we know WWE 2K24 is on the way. It'll be dropping in March. Of course, we just heard the big tournament that will happen during WWE World during WrestleMania. And day by day, moment by moment rankings for these video game characters are coming out. We saw some of them in the lower left-hand corner on Smackdown Friday night. But these ratings that have come out, well, this particular set has got a lot of people talking. And that is Logan Paul, the U.S. champion, is ranked number 90 at 90 out of potential 99. Gunther, the longest reigning Intercontinental champion, is also ranked at 90. Now, I know it's a video game, but we're talking about a guy who the longest reigning Intercontinental champion versus the brand new U.S. champion. I guess here's the less than obvious question. Is there a world where Logan Paul and Gunther should be rated the same?
No chance. No chance. And this is like how you have Madden rankings, and this is why you need the adjusters who adjust things as they go. Because I want to believe this was a mistake. But the problem is this mistake is now public. But Gunther should probably be top 3 in the game. I don't know who the top person is. I'm assuming it's probably Roman and Cody. Gunther should be right there. 94, 95. Actually, I take it back. I think I saw Rhea as a 96. Gunther got to be like at least 97.
I think this is disrespectful to Gunther.
So Gunther should be 97 based off of being the longest reigning IC champ, right?
No, based off not having lost.
Well, then there's that.
Yeah, based on not having taken any pins.
And in-ring ability.
Okay, but
wow.
Oh, thank you. I was waiting for one of y'all to say it. In-ring ability, right? So Logan Paul can do stuff Gunther can't do, right?
Uh-oh, wait, we're
That's
not gonna have,
debatable.
Wait,
what do
I'm
we,
sorry.
what do we
What
do-
was that?
What do,
That's
wait,
debatable.
please finish this thought because I feel like I'm about to get trolled again. Go ahead.
No, yes or no question. Can
Yeah, you
Logan
talk-
Paul do stuff in the ring that Gunther can't do? Yes
We
or
don't
no?
know that.
He can. Ricochet can do some things that Gunther doesn't. That
Okay,
doesn't mean
I don't know that
Ricochet
Gunther can't
should
hit a
be ranked-
buckshot lariat. I don't know that at all.
Dog, if Gunther hits a buckshot lariat, I will Venmo you $100.
I don't know that he cannot do that at all. He just is it in his moveset? No, I don't think he
Here's
can.
the point I'm making. And you mentioned Madden and adjusters. You can be rated, quote unquote, equal to somebody, but that doesn't make you the same as somebody. If I have CJ, well, let me take that back. If I have a post-prison Michael Vick being rated the same as Eli Manning, that doesn't mean they're equal, right? Does it, Seth? You're a football fan. You work for the league.
Yeah, I do. It depends on the attributes that you're talking about. You're talking about like the awareness, vision, stuff.
Thank
There's
you.
a number of
That's
things
the point
that
I'm making.
go in that. But the problem is that Logan Paul, who I think we can count on one hand how many matches he's wrestled in the past year, being a 90. Now, this is just a comparison to Gunther. I haven't even gone down the list of who he's higher than. I think Drew McIntyre is 89, by the way.
Oh, is
I
it
just
wild
heard
that
that.
Logan's a 90? Yes, absolutely.
Kevin Owens is 86.
Disrespectful. Absolutely disrespectful.
I'm not arguing that. I'm saying it's wild that Logan is a 90. Yes, I can see the case of how we got here, though. It's a mobile quarterback versus a pocket quarterback. You got to look at the actual attributes. Now, if you go look at these diehard attributes and you tell me that Logan Paul's strength is the same as Gunther's, then yeah, I absolutely have a problem. Or his resiliency is high as Gunther's. Yeah, we have a problem. But if you have the athleticism all the way up here for Mr. Paul, and Gunther's more down here, but the toughness is here for Gunther versus here for Paul, you kind of even yourself out a little bit. I think it's wild that Logan is a 90, but I'm not upset per se that they came out the same when you got to look at styles. Styles make fights, right?
It's February 19th, 2024, and I got Jacob up here comparing Logan Paul to Madden Michael Vick. Can we just end the show?
I didn't compare him to Mike Vick. There was not a comparison.
You said we have a mobile quarterback and a pocket quarterback. So is Gunther the mobile quarterback?
By the
That was
way,
a reference. That was not a
Cody
comparison.
is 93.
Who's 93?
No, you did.
Cody
No,
is
you did.
93.
This is just whatever.
Also, they do roster updates. They will drop and adjust these ratings. So
They better, because as soon as I saw it on that screen when I was doing the watch along, I was like, oh hell to no. I was like, there's no way. And then they had Zelina at like 78.
74.
Oh, it's like I was being nice because that's my girl, but like I'm just like, why?
never on
Like,
TV, doesn't win much when she's on TV. It makes sense. If you take
Wow.
out the fandom and the love for it, some of this makes a little bit of sense. Some of it.
what fandom he got?
Oh, I got no
That
fandom.
too.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
No, I'm talking about
math
Logan.
to math. There's a bunch of
Oh, man.
YouTube kiddos that love Logan Paul, and he made the buckshot lariat his move. I need Hangman to stop stealing that move.
Someone
I
asked where
guess.
Dominic is. Dominic is 83.
That's crazy.
Interesting.
That's
crazy.
fair.
I feel like it's kind of low for him.
I would have.
As somebody who was the
Given all
most
that-
improved wrestler last year, like
He was like a
Absolutely.
78, 79 last year.
Let me see these rankings, because
Mm,
now these
Because they
rankings are
got
getting me
Gargano at a
hot.
76 this year.
I don't think anybody worked more matches than Dominic last year.
No,
Yeah, it
no,
was-
he worked the most matches last year. They did rate that, but Johnny Gargano's a what?
76 is what I saw.
That's just crazy to me. That's how do you have somebody's name Mr. Wrestling or Johnny Wrestling and they're what? Like it makes no sense.
This quote is great here from Special Little Nobodies. He says, I was with Jacob on the live take, but I'm getting off at the next stop. Back to Parkerville for me, right next to Vice City.
That's fine. The bus will come back by and pick you back up for my next day. I'll be fine.
Well, that's probably a great way to go ahead and and wrap things up. Though I do think we do have to talk about, again, a very stacked show tonight, including, as we're talking about Gunther. Gunther defends against Jey Uso for the IC title tonight. Kicking off the show is Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. We've got the women's qualifier and all kinds of things. I got to ask the question, is tonight the night? Is tonight the night that Gunther loses the IC title and Jay becomes a singles champ?
Nope. Tonight's the night where we kick off Jimmy and Jay heading to WrestleMania, though.
Yes. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Unfortunately, because I love Jey Uso and I don't want to root against Jey Uso, but Gunther is not losing that title.
Well,
not to Jay, at least. He'll lose it soon. Not to Jay. It was reported that Gunther lost by DQ to Chad Gable. I always thought that Chad should probably get that honor at some point. I know they did like the 3 or 4 matches already, but I feel like he built the most momentum against Gunther during this entire title reign that Gunther's had.
This one,
yeah. For sure.
Yeah, Gunther's got to take it. There's only one person I see being Gunther, if not Gable, but I'm not saying that yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we've got quite the road, of course, leading us to the Elimination Chamber, which again is Saturday morning on the East Coast, 5 a.m. on the West Coast, 2 a.m. and everywhere in between. Kind of get in where you fit in. Meanwhile, though, let's find out how we can reach all of our amazing panel today. Jacob, we'll start with you.
I'm at _J Della on Twitter. You can find my writings over at stillcrew.com. I'll pop up and do something here shortly. And Jesus, Mr. Welton, fix your face. It was coming.
Okay.
And according to somebody, I apparently have ESPN money now. So you can also find an article about the history and the legacy of the Jordan 4 black and red, aka the Bread Jordan 4s, over on anscape.com. Still on the front page. You happy, Mr. Welton?
Nice. All right.
Still on the front page. Hey.
All right. Honey, where can the people find all things Wrestling with Honey?
Everybody can find me here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They could also find me on Mondays on IG Live doing my Wrestling with Honey watch-alongs for Raw, and as well as Fridays, newly moved to Women's Wrestling Talk YouTube as well. And TikTok Wrestling with Honey, Instagram Wrestling with Honey, YouTube Wrestling with Honey, Facebook Wrestling W Honey.
There it is. Mayor said.
You can find me on Twitter at says, that's CEDD_SAYS. On Instagram at said is the answer. You can check out my website, cedricdweldon.com. What else I got? I write for dailyddt.com. If you want to go check out some older articles, podcasts pending. I have to get a new laptop now, amongst other things. But make sure you stay locked here Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, where I will occasionally pop up and give you banter about Lola Vice, Jada Parker, and maybe other women on the NXT roster. You never know. Just show up.
And there it is. Of course, you guys can reach me at Bonnerfied across all of the spaces. You can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling and IWE as part of IWTV. You can check out my commentary work with All Caribbean Wrestling and the Nightmare Factory on their respective YouTube channels. You can check me out with Ashe Wrestling this Saturday, which should be absolutely fantastic. In addition, I'm doing some correspondent work with Ashe Wrestling, so you can check that out on their socials as well. I feel like there's some other things. Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, the trailer for that is out. You guys can check that out. I'm really pumped about being a part of that. And of course, I'm here at Women's Wrestling Talk as part of WWT Live throughout the week. Yeah, speaking of Women's Wrestling Talk, make sure you're following us, WW Talk Pod, on all the socials. Make sure you're checking out the website, www.talkpod.com, for great interviews. And I know some new interviews are going to be dropping this week, so you guys will definitely want to check that out. Shout out to all of you in the chat. Eric, Cousin Ron, with, again, that firsthand information from Albany this week, which we appreciate. Special Little Nobodies, MDB, Chris Maloney, good to see you. Barry Monkey. I did see Boza in here, and JD was in here, and all the people everywhere. We appreciate you guys rocking with us here as part of Women's Wrestling Talk. We'll be back here again Wednesday for WWT Live. And of course, check out all of our other shows here on our site. Until next time, this has been Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.